Every major drug cartel in history has been built around one person, one name that holds the whole thing together, one man that every soldier, every regional commander, and every money launderer answers to. When that person is removed, by arrest, extradition, or death, the organization does not simply fall apart. It splinters, and the men who are already powerful while following orders become something far more dangerous when there are no more orders coming from the top. On February 22, 2026, the Mexican army shot Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, inside a gated residential property in Tapalpa, Jalisco. He died while being transported by helicopter to Mexico City. Within hours, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, responded by placing approximately 250 roadblocks across 20 Mexican states simultaneously. 25 National Guard officers were killed in follow-up attacks in Jalisco alone. Airports suspended flights, businesses closed. Guadalajara, a host city for the 2026 FIFA World Cup just months away, went dark. El Mencho's son is serving a life sentence in the United States. His brothers are in custody. His son-in-law pleaded guilty in a U.S. court. The family line that built one of the most powerful criminal organizations on Earth has been systematically taken off the board. Today, we are covering the three men U.S. and Mexican authorities have identified as the most significant figures in the fight to replace him, and what the documented record actually says about each of them. Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, El Pelón/LO3. According to the U.S. Department of State's official reward notice, Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez was born on September 12, 1984, in Santa Ana, California. He holds both American and Mexican citizenship. The State Department lists his known aliases as El Pelón, LO3, LR3, LJP, and Tricky Trace. The U.S. government is currently offering a $5 million reward for information leading to his arrest and conviction. His connection to CJNG runs through both sides of his family. His mother, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, married El Mencho, making the slain cartel boss his stepfather. His biological father was Armando Valencia Cornelio, alias El Maradona, who, according to U.S. authorities, was the former leader of the Milenio Cartel, the organization from which CJNG later grew. Before he was old enough to do anything, he was already surrounded by cartel leadership on both sides of his family tree. His mother was not a passive figure. According to court records and U.S. sanctions filings, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia previously managed the financial and legal operations of the cartel and oversaw CJNG's affiliated money laundering network known as Los Queenies. She was arrested in 2018 and convicted in December 2023 for failing to disclose transactions connected to a car wash she owned in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco. She received a 5-year sentence before being released early in February 2025. Security analysts have suggested she would likely use whatever influence she still holds to support her son's claim to leadership. Her early release happened to come just weeks before El Mencho was killed. Valencia Gonzalez himself was formally charged in a 2020 federal indictment in Washington, D.C., with conspiracy to distribute controlled substances for unlawful importation into the United States, and with using a firearm during a narcotics transaction. According to the U.S. Department of State, a DEA investigation found he was allegedly responsible for the manufacturing, transportation, and distribution of large quantities of narcotics, as well as organizing violent crimes. The State Department states that authorities believe he has been involved in trafficking cocaine and methamphetamine into the United States since at least 2007. In July 2020, during an official press conference, Mexico's Secretary of Defense, Luis Crescencio Sandoval, publicly identified Valencia Gonzalez as one of the leaders of Grupo Elite, CJNG's primary armed wing. Prior to El Mencho's death, The U.S. National Counterterrorism Center described Valencia Gonzalez as the de facto second-in-command of CJNG. When El Mencho was shot by Mexican soldiers in Tapalpa, Jalisco, on February 22, 2026, and died while being transported to Mexico City, Valencia Gonzalez immediately emerged as one of the most discussed potential successors. Mexico City-based security analyst David Saucedo told CNN that while Valencia Gonzalez was a senior figure within the organization, he still lacks influence among other cartel commanders, meaning his position on paper and his actual authority over thousands of armed men are not necessarily the same thing. Saucedo told CNN it was likely that one of 4 or 5 top commanders would emerge as the next leader, rather than any single person claiming the seat cleanly. Mexican authorities had not officially confirmed any internal succession at the time of this writing. Unverified reports circulating on social media claimed he had been named the new leader within days of El Mencho's death. Those claims have not been corroborated by any named official or verified investigative outlet. His biggest structural advantage over the other candidates is what his family name represents inside the cartel's history. According to reporting published in the days after El Mencho's death, security consultants noted that El Mencho's power inside CJNG was significantly built through his marriage to Valencia Gonzalez's mother and the Valencia family's existing criminal networks. That foundation gives the family name real institutional weight. Whether Valencia Gonzalez personally has the standing to convert that weight into actual command over an organization with an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 members remains, according to every analyst on record, an open question. The second man in this fight did not need family connections. He spent over 2 decades earning his position next to El Mencho directly, and according to U.S. authorities, he controlled more of the cartel's actual operations than anyone else still free and in the field. Audias Flores Silva, El Jardinero, the gardener. According to the U.S. DEA's official wanted notice, Audias Flores Silva was born on November 19, 1980, in Huetamo, Michoacán, the same state where El Mencho was born. The DEA lists him at approximately 5 feet 3 inches, 190 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. The DEA also identified a second name he has allegedly used, Gabriel Raigosa Plasencia. His known aliases include El Jardinero, El Comandante, El Bravo II, El Audi, and Mata Jefes, which translates to boss killer. The U.S. State Department offers a $5 million reward for information leading to his arrest. He faces charges in a 2020 federal indictment from the District of Columbia for conspiracy to distribute 5 kilograms or more of cocaine and 1 kilogram or more of heroin for importation into the United States, as well as for carrying and using a firearm in connection with those drug offenses. According to multiple Mexican investigative journalists and U.S. law enforcement filings, Flores Silva served for more than 2 decades as El Mencho's personal head of security, before eventually taking on broader territorial responsibilities. Journalist Oscar Balderas, who covers organized crime for Milenio, described him in published reporting as a sadistic bodyguard, and wrote that no other head of security for any major Mexican cartel had managed to keep their leader untouchable for as long as Flores Silva did. His legal history in Mexico reflects the scale of what authorities allege against him. In April 2015, 15 members of the Fuerza Única, a state police force in Jalisco, were killed in an ambush in Soyatlan. Mexican authorities arrested Flores Silva in 2016 in connection with that attack. He spent 3 years inside the federal prison of Puente Grande in Jalisco before being released in 2019 after the charges against him were reversed. Prior to that, he had already served 5 years in a U.S. prison on drug trafficking charges. 2 separate arrests, 2 releases. He is currently free, and his location is unknown. According to the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, which sanctioned him in June 2025, Flores Silva controls clandestine laboratories in the central region of Jalisco and in southern Zacatecas, used to produce methamphetamine and other narcotics. The Treasury's official statement also says authorities believe he oversees aircraft, clandestine airstrips, and tractor-trailers used to move cocaine from Central America northward. According to the indictment, distribution cells he allegedly supplies are located in California, Texas, Illinois, Georgia, Washington, and Virginia. Additionally, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control stated directly that timeshare fraud operations in Nayarit were controlled by CJNG operatives acting on behalf of Audias Flores Silva. That scheme, according to the FBI, cost American tourists more than $300 million between 2019 and 2023. In 2025, Mexican investigative reporting by journalist Oscar Balderas, published in Milenio, described a significant development in Flores Silva's role. According to Balderas's reporting, which cited military sources, CJNG and the Chapitos faction of the Sinaloa Cartel entered into an alliance aimed at fighting a common rival, the Maíza faction, led by Ismael Zambada's loyalists. According to that reporting, Flores Silva was the CJNG figure trusted to coordinate the arrangement, and was subsequently described as taking on a security role for the Chapitos faction as part of the deal. The specific territorial terms described in that reporting have not been confirmed by U.S. or Mexican government statements and should be understood as investigative reporting rather than officially verified fact. The cultural signals around Flores Silva are worth noting, though security analysts are careful not to treat them as hard confirmation. A narco corrido titled El Sucesor, released in 2022 by Gerardo Diaz, contained lyrics referencing the subject as the successor to the boss and his right-hand man. A second song, El Jardinero by Los Farmers, released on YouTube in January 2025, accumulated over 561,000 views by mid-2025. And contained lines stating that I am the successor of the enterprise, and directly addressing the $5 million bounty with open defiance. Security analysts who study cartel culture often view narco corridos as signals of influence and positioning within these organizations. Though, as those analysts acknowledge, such songs are not official confirmation of anything. What makes Flores Silva's candidacy distinct from the other two men is the combination of factors stacked in his direction. The U.S. Treasury sanctioned him specifically. The DEA has him on a wanted poster. He served directly under El Mencho for over 2 decades. He has territorial control confirmed by U.S. government filings across 5 Mexican states. And according to investigative reporting, he was trusted enough to represent CJNG in the highest-stakes intercartel negotiation in recent years. No single factor settles the question of succession. But as Mexico City security consultant David Salcedo told CNN after El Mencho's death, the cartel's lack of a clear family successor meant that one of 4 or 5 top commanders would likely fill the vacuum. And the documented record places Flores Silva at the front of that list. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this analysis, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel tremendously. The third man took the most visible path of all. While Flores Silva stayed quiet and operational, this man made sure that anyone watching knew exactly who was running CJNG's most feared fighting unit. Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, El Doble R/El Tripa. Ricardo Ruiz Velasco was born on September 13, 1984, in the state of Jalisco, according to U.S. Treasury and DEA records. His known aliases are El Doble R, El RR, El Tripa, El Tripas, and El YouTuber. The U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned him on June 18, 2025, placing him on the specially designated nationals list, meaning it is illegal for any U.S. person or company to do business with him, and any assets he holds connected to U.S. institutions are frozen. According to U.S. Treasury and Mexican government records, Ruiz Velasco commands Grupo Elite, CJNG's primary special forces unit. The group operates as CJNG's main armed wing across Jalisco, Michoacán, Zacatecas, and Guanajuato. It was specifically formed to fight the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel for control of Guanajuato. The Mexican federal government has identified Ruiz Velasco as the regional commander for CJNG operations in Aguascalientes, Michoacán, Guanajuato, and San Luis Potosí. According to reporting in La Silla Rota, citing intelligence sources, prior to El Mencho's death, Ruiz Velasco was described internally as among the most significant figures in the organization due to his control over CJNG's urban infrastructure across those states. The U.S. Treasury's official sanctions statement, released June 18, 2025, describes him as a senior CJNG lieutenant close to El Mencho, who is affiliated with a CJNG Special Forces unit. The same statement says he has been responsible for CJNG's public communications and propaganda, and has been implicated in high-profile murders in Mexico for more than a decade, to include a deadly attack on Mexican police officers and the killings of a Jalisco state official and Venezuelan model. These are Treasury's own words from an official government document, not interpretation. In 2020, Mexico's then Secretary of Defense, Luis Crescencio Sandoval Gonzalez, announced during an official press conference that Grupo Elite was responsible for a deadly ambush on police in Villagrán, Guanajuato that left 3 officers dead, 1 injured, and 4 people kidnapped. Ruiz Velasco led Grupo Elite at the time. Mexican authorities have linked him to the December 2017 killing of 17-year-old social media personality Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, known online as El Pirata de Culiacán, who was shot dead inside a bar in Zapopan, Jalisco. Investigators believe the killing was retaliation for videos Lagunas had posted insulting El Mencho. No conviction has been secured in connection with that killing. The name El YouTuber came from his documented role in CJNG's propaganda operation. Starting around 2020, Mexican military intelligence confirmed that Ruiz Velasco was behind CJNG's social media videos showing armed convoys, military-grade weapons, and hundreds of uniformed cartel members. During an official Sedena press conference, Mexico's defense minister confirmed that the masked man speaking directly to camera in those videos was Ruiz Velasco. Those videos were widely understood by security analysts and Mexican authorities as recruitment tools and intimidation campaigns directed at rivals and the military simultaneously. In August 2022, the Mexican army attempted to capture Ruiz Velasco during a meeting with another CJNG figure in the mountains between Jalisco and Zacatecas. He escaped. What followed was documented across multiple states. Narco blockades erupted in at least 4 states. Vehicles burned. Stores were attacked in Guadalajara and Guanajuato, and armed convoys appeared in streets across the region. The army detained 14 people, but did not capture Ruiz Velasco or his associate. An intelligence source in Guanajuato, quoted by journalist Oscar Balderas in Milenio, described him as the leader any army would want and the criminal any country would not want. Balderas wrote in that same 2022 column that at least one of the men closest to El Mencho was actively building an independent power base within the cartel and positioning for eventual succession, referring to Ruiz Velasco. On May 13, 2025, Valeria Marquez, a 23-year-old beauty influencer with over 100,000 TikTok followers, was shot and killed while broadcasting live from her salon in Zapopan, Jalisco. A man posing as a delivery driver walked in and shot her. She died on camera. Within 1 day, Mexican media named Ruiz Velasco as the prime suspect, citing sources who told outlet Milenio that he had been in a romantic relationship with Marquez for several months. and that investigators were examining whether a dispute over gifts she received from followers was connected to the killing. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office publicly stated it lacked sufficient evidence at the time to formally name him as the perpetrator. The U.S. Treasury Department, however, cited his alleged role in her murder as a direct factor in his June 2025 sanction, describing the killing as part of a pattern of CJNG using violence against women as a tool of intimidation. What Mexico City security analyst David Saucedo told CNN after El Mencho's death placed Ruiz Velasco directly in the succession picture, alongside Flores Silva, El Pelón, and a fourth unnamed figure. His documented military command, his U.S. government designation, and his 2 decades of operational presence across multiple states give him real standing in that fight. His path to the top runs through the men he commands. Grupo Elite is the sharpest armed instrument CJNG has. But whether those men follow a lieutenant into a leadership role, or whether the cartel's regional commanders and family loyalists decide the question differently, is something no analyst has been able to confirm. What comes next? As with many high-ranking figures in organized crime, much of what is publicly known about these 3 men comes from indictments, sanctions designations, and reporting by security analysts. In several cases, the allegations outlined here have not been proven in court. What can be stated as confirmed fact is this: El Mencho was killed on February 22, 2026. His son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, is serving a life sentence in the United States. His brother Antonio was extradited to the United States in February 2025. His brother Abraham was in Mexican custody as of that same month. His son-in-law pleaded guilty to money laundering in a U.S. court in June 2025. The family that built CJNG has been systematically removed, one by one, from the board. What that leaves is a cartel that U.S. authorities estimated had between 15,000 and 20,000 members, presence in at least 21 of Mexico's 32 states, and global drug trafficking routes spanning the United States, Canada, Europe, Asia, and Australia, and no officially confirmed leader. Mexico City security analyst David Saucedo told CNN that the lack of a direct successor meant a power vacuum had formed inside CJNG, and that a power vacuum opens the door to violent realignments. Crisis group analyst David Mora told AFP that in the absence of a clear line of succession, the structure of the cartel itself would determine whether it held together or fractured. CJNG's franchise model, where regional commanders run their own territories under a central banner rather than waiting for orders from a single boss, means the organization can keep running even without a confirmed leader at the top. It also means that 3 men running 3 different pieces of that franchise, each with their own armies, alliances, and U.S. government designations, are now in a position where whoever moves first, moves fastest, or survives longest writes the next chapter. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.